Joining us now is Shiites Atigari with stories trending around the world. Hello, Shiites.
Hello, Dr. Abasi. Talking about being around the world. Welcome back. It's such a pleasure to have you. Good morning, Ayo.
Good morning,
Rufai.
Dr. Abatu has been around the world.
And he found his baby. Okay.
And he took his baby. More like.
All right, then let's get into what's trending. There was pandemonium in the Wuse district of the Federal Capital Territory on Sunday as members of the Islamic Movement of Nigeria, otherwise known as Shiites, had a bloody confrontation with the police that claimed many lives, while several others sustained various degrees of injuries. The violent confrontation, which degenerated into a gun duel, also led to the burning of several police vehicles. Reacting to the unfortunate but avoidable human carnage, the FCT Police Command, in a statement signed by the Commissioner of Police, Bennett Igwe, confirmed the death of 2 of his personnel during the confrontation. He also disclosed that 3 other personnel were left unconscious in the hospital, and 3 police patrol vehicles were also set ablaze by the religious zealots. Take a look.
See the bomb police car.
Well, very sad news coming out of Abuja. You know, Igwe had said that the organization attacked the police checkpoint unprovoked, wielding machetes, improvised explosive devices, while the Islamic movement, in a counter statement on Sunday, also said that the police attacked the urban symbolic trek in Abuja. It doesn't matter who attacked who first, but it shouldn't have degenerated into this. Dr. Rubin.
No, quickly. The first thing to stress is the point about the freedom of thought, conscience, and religion. Section 38 of the 1999 Constitution says that, look, as a citizen, you are entitled to your own way of worshiping God. Now, the Shiite movement, or the Islamic movement of Nigeria, as they are otherwise known, led by Zaki, they've been having a running battle, you know, with the Nigerian state. Basically, because of the ideological orientation of people who are in government, you know, who belong to a different sect. So sectarian politics is one of the major issues we have with religion. Now, the Shiites, they are said to be affiliated to Iran and a certain ideological persuasion. Every time they have their, you know, procession, it always degenerates into violence or this kind of ugly situation that you have had. I think the responsibility of the Nigerian government is to ensure that everybody is protected under the law. And for people of whatever sectarian orientation, respect also the rule of law. So this is an old issue that we have had. You know, it happens almost on a yearly basis. Either the Shiites being attacked in Zaria or their leader being detained indefinitely. But you know, we must insist on the constitutional right to freedom of thought and conscience.
All right, so there are 2 sides to this story, and I'm sure there's the truth. So one side is the side where the police has released a statement that 2 of their officers were killed by unprovoked attacks by the Shiite move. Let's go back to why this trek happened. It's the Abayin symbolic trek. And it happens annually, and as the statement released, and by the way, 2 days before the trek in Abuja, they sent out a letter to say that they were going on this trek, which is open to everyone to join. It's part of their expression of religious freedom, and that it is in remembrance of the grandson of their prophet, Imran Hussein, who was killed as a martyr. And you know, they have this trek regularly, and they said that people were welcome to join them. So they embarked on this trek. Apparently, day 1 was quite peaceful. From the side of the Shiites, day 2 became violent when the police attacked them, where they said they did their due diligence to ensure that the people who were on this trek were unarmed and so they didn't have any kind of ammunition on them, just to ensure that they were able to to remember or to embrace this walk or this trek that they do regularly. On the side of the police says that they were standing and then the Shiites attacked them. Now, according to some eyewitness reports, they said that indeed the police attacked and that some members of the Shiite movement who were walking were killed. What I'd like to ask this morning, because there are still sketchy details and it's too early to make a call, because at the end of the day, they say there's a side of one person, the other side, and then the side of the truth, is number one, were the Shiite faithfuls killed? If they were killed, why? Was it as a result of it? So the police shouldn't be silent on that, because what we're hearing a lot is the two policemen and no policeman in active duty or not even in active duty should be killed. We need to protect and preserve the lives of our servicemen. But it's also important to protect the lives of citizens of Nigeria. So were Shiites killed? If they were, how many? And after that, why were they killed? So protests or walks like this shouldn't degenerate to violence. Yes, they've had a history of violence, but it shouldn't always be the case.
Rufai.
Very sad one. Very sad one. And please, I would like to beg everybody involved to please hold their peace. This didn't start today. You remember the famous walk where an army entourage was going and the Shiites were having their walk, I think about over 5 years ago, and there was an open skirmish led to the killings on both sides. And we all remember what happened. Those events even snowballed into Exazaki that was kept indefinitely, that the courts have said let go at some point, but we have not seen anything. Femi Falana did represent El Zakzaki in those cases, if my memory serves me right. And this talk about sectarianism, it's not today. In fact, if you go read Geisar's book, one of the biggest authorities of sectarianism, and sectarianism in Islam, all of this snowballed after the death of our Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, where who was going to take over became a problem. So we've got splintering of groups, the Shiites, the Sunnis. Here, predominantly in Nigeria, there's a predominance of Sunni Islam. So that's why some people are saying, okay, yeah, there's also a politics of, states and sectarianism in this country, because if there's a predominance of Sunni Islam and you're having Shiites in the mix, then definitely there's a friction. But like I used to say, religion must not cause chaos. It's your belief system that is different from the other person's belief system. And the state must be able to respect the rights of everybody across board. And it's not today we're having those skirmishes. So how can we settle it? How can we bring a lot of the parties in the table? Because like you said, Ayo, rightly, there are always many sides. But there's a side of the truth. Yeah. Who provoked who first? You know why this particularly helped me? Because I remember the last time we had this Shiite uprising was what led to the killing of that NYSC journalist that was working with a television station.
Yes.
And we cannot forget that and the pain. So there's always going to be sectarianism in the world, even across Christianity and all, but it should not be a basis for conversation. Let them move and freely and do whatever they're going to do. And honestly, the state should also revisit cases as regards El Zakzaki. What has the court ruled as regards El Zakzaki? Let us also settle all of that so that we stop all of this brickbats. It can't continue this way. We keep killing people. And my heart and my commiseration goes out to the police officers killed. Those police officers are needless. There was no point for killing them.
Definitely. Thank you so much, Rufai. Now let's move on now to our next story. The International Press Institute of Nigeria has condemned the arrest of Adejuwon Soyinka, the West African editor for The Conversation Africa. Soyinka was detained by officers of the Department of State Services at the Murtala Mohammed International Airport in Lagos on Sunday, shortly after arriving from the United Kingdom. In a statement signed by Ahmed Shekarau, IPI Nigeria Secretary, and Toby Shoniyi, its legal advisor, the institute described the arrest as part of a broader pattern of intimidation against journalists under the administration of President Bola Tinubu. The statement also cited recent instances of harassment of journalists, including the targeting of reporters during the End Bad Governance in Nigeria protest. The first tweet there reads, and that's from Amnesty Nigeria. That tweet came out when he was arrested. It says the Nigerian authorities must immediately and unconditionally release journalist Juwon Soyinka, who was arrested by the Department of State Services early today at Lagos Airport. The manner of his arrest puts him at the risk of torture and other ill treatment. Another tweet there reads from Yomi, it's alarming to note that investigative journalists are increasingly being treated like criminals. facing swift arrest and persecution. It was Pidom and now Soyinka. Meanwhile, Soyombo was also summoned recently. The last tweet there, and that's from the Foreign Press Association, says, "We demand the immediate return of Mr. Soyinka's passport, an apology to him, and an end to any further harassment disguised as further questioning. We also call for the full transparency from the DSS and other government agencies regarding the circumstances of his arrest." Now, back to you in the studio. I mean, what we've heard is that as part of his bail conditions, the agency seized his passport and asked him to provide a Nigerian address and a reliable phone number through which he can be reached at any time and called back for questioning.
Well, he was detained for 6 hours, we're told. Regional editor of The Conversation, which is an investigative platform. Originally, the Department of State Services claimed innocence in the matter. They said they did not arrest anybody called Adiju Soyinka. But eventually, the latest report is that he has now been released, but his passport has been withheld. Understandably, the media community would, of course, react against any form of repression or intimidation of any journalist practicing either inside or outside Nigeria. Now, what this, brings up is the plight of journalists under the Tinubu administration. Media Rights Agenda, a few months ago, did, a collation in terms of the freedom to be, to practice journalism, and then found that, look, under President Tinubu, quite a significant number of journalists, over 100, have either been intimidated or detained or harassed or questioned, which then faces us with a major irony, as that Media Rights Agenda report was saying, that, look, you have a president in position who is himself a media owner, The Nation, TVC, other platforms, and that it is very strange that under his watch, journalists will be subjected to any form of embarrassment. The second thing, of course, is that, look, we also have very prominent journalists who are in this government. So the Tinubu administration will ordinarily say, well, we are not intimidating journalists, we are not harassing journalists. But the point to be made is that, look, journalists have a constitutional right under Section 22 of the Constitution to be the fourth estate of the realm, the watchdog, to hold government accountable. So whatever journalists do, it's within the purview of that constitutional responsibility, further extended under Section 39 of the Constitution. However, the point I always make in this regard is that journalists also have a responsibility, to practice what I call, or what Francis S. Merrill in his book of the same title, because responsible journalism, the fact that you are a journalist, does not give you the right to be reckless or to be negative, to be professionally contrarian. No. So it's a balance in there, about the responsibility of the state and also the responsibility of the journalist. But let it not become a pattern, as Media Rights Agenda has warned, that under President Tinubu, there seems to be an attempt, to intimidate. Let's just use that soft word, to intimidate the media.
It's just 15 months in this administration, and if we have 100, that's a cause for concern. It's worrying. And so Mr. Soyinka's case is one of a number of cases that we've seen in recent times. If it's not journalists, it is people who are organizing protests that they say they have foreign influence or interference. If it's not that, it is people who are on X or on social media platforms who disappear and they find that they are in DSS custody. I think the big question for this story is, why did they detain him? Up until now, there's been no concrete reason as to why he's been detained. Whether is it a red flag for treason, as this has become very common? No, what is the case? Because what this signals is intimidation, especially for people who are in media. That's just the truth. Mr. Soyinka was the the pioneer editor of BBC Pidgin, and now he's moved on to Conversation Africa as regional editor. And it's important to note that there hasn't been any reason given for his passport being withheld, for his detention on his arrival from the United Kingdom, early hours of the morning at the airport. You know, the press freedom is what we push for. And let me take it back finally to the statement, what we had talked about this morning with regards to the president's speech at the NBA conference. The last thing he said is that, and we will tolerate dissenting views. But he put a caveat within the ambit of the law, ambit of the laws of Nigeria. Now, that caveat is open wide for deliberation because they will say they are justified. It's a threat to national security. But when you look at the details of the case, you cannot see the merit in that. So that's where the disconnection is. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu is an activist himself. He was able to speak out under the most difficult of administrations and also under the most tolerant of administrations under the Jonathan administration. He must extend that same goodwill to Nigerian people to speak their minds even if they dissent with him.
You see,
very quickly,
we always lie that balance is the watchword. No, balance is a farce. As journalists, we should be objective and uphold the truth. The question I should ask is, what is the truth for every matter? Delegiwa was famously quoted to have said, it is the role of the government to hide the details. It is the role of the journalist to be able to unearth what the government has hidden. In all these cases, from PDOM to everybody, the question is, if we would do an investigative journalism work, it's incumbent on you, government, to be able to say, okay, this is your own side of the story. But does it negate the truth? Most of the leaks that have come out, is it not factual of things that have happened? So if we are all saying that, were there not people that brought out what happened in the Watergate scandal? So let's be realistic. Because what we are saying invariably is that, don't tell the truth. Keep it under wraps. You will have a story now, you will report it, government position, which we know might be a lie, supersedes the true position of things. Wasn't it here that we sat down that a spokesperson in Kano for police was lying about a bombing, and based on questions here, he recanted what he said? What we should look at is digging the truth. See, I'm not saying if those people now lie and embellish, they should not be found out. They should be disgraced. But we can't have a point in the country where people, in the spirit of balance, we are not able to dig out the truth. So what is the truth about the matter? Okay, till today, we've not known the truth about what really happened between the police and the Shia situation. Till today, we've not really known the truth about what happened. DSS will first deny. So in the name of balance, where we can't dig out, DSS will first deny. Why did they finally accept that this guy was arrested?
That's the truth.
Let us get the truth out, because that's why this society is moribund and dead.
All right. My next story, I'm hoping, will calm your nerves a little bit.
It's painful.
Yeah.
It can be you tomorrow, Sheito.
Definitely.
That's why we're speaking out now.
I understand, Rufai. Let's end what's trending today with a heartwarming video of Enugu State Governor, Dr. Peter Mba, displaying humility during a church service that's making the rounds on social media. The governor, who chose to sit in the middle pew like an ordinary congregant, but was soon approached by the priest who urged him to move to the front seat. The priest, determined to show respect to the governor, knelt to plead with him, and in a surprising turn of events, Governor Mba refused to budge, but instead also knelt down to beg the priest to allow him to remain in his seat. The viral video has sparked widespread admiration for Governor Mba's humility and willingness to eschew VIP treatment, even in a place of worship. It's been hailed as a rare display of modesty by a public figure and has set a positive example for leaders and citizens alike. I'd like to know your thoughts about this. This particular video was trending throughout the weekend, and people just saying that it's really refreshing to see a governor who isn't necessarily bothered about, where he's going to sit, protocol. He was just there to serve God, and he wanted to be left alone to do what he was there for.
I think it's most appropriate to commend Governor Mba's humility. What they say is that in the house of God, everyone is equal. But we have found ourselves in a society whereby people like attention, like Donald Trump, a society of noisemakers. When they go to church, they don't even remember that they are in the presence of God and that it's a place where one should be humble. In many of these churches, the priest who was asking Governor Mba to come to the front. He's working, after a fashion, after a pattern, because even in the house of God, there's a specially reserved seat for, big men, But what Governor Mba is saying is that as a well-brought-up man, he recognizes the fact that in the house of God, everybody is equal. Whether you sit at the back or you sit in the front, everybody will receive the same grace in the presence of God. It's not only churches, even in the mosques. You find some people who are too big to sit down. They sit on a chair, because they are privileged people.
Health reasons.
Well, whether it's health reason or whatever.
No, but he's referring to those that are doing it. That is not health reasons.
But some people do it, just for purposes of their own self-importance.
Yes,
Look, one thing I discovered when I was in detention, in the morning, we'll have a Christian session, we'll have a prayer session for Muslims. I discovered then that there are some people that cannot lead Muslim prayers because of the nature of their extraction. It has to be people from a particular class. So why do we do class politics in the presence of God? I hope those who are too big in the presence of God will learn from the example of Governor Mba of Enugu State and, eschew their arrogance and project the kind of humility that Governor Peter Mba of Enugu State has demonstrated. I rest my case.
You know why this is making me Shaitan? Because this is an unusual sight. We don't see this often. In fact, what we see is that not just the principal, but his entourage, his aides must also want to sit on the stage, not even in front, just to show that just how important they are. I think the responsibility is both ways. On the side, on the part of the VIP, but also on the part of the religious institution as well. Religious institution, yes, the Bible says give honor to whom it is due, but sometimes we overdo it. We now make men like gods, and they cannot come to TV stations for interview because they are too big for certain things. It's about service, it's about humility, and the fact that in the grave, there's no hierarchy.
Rufai, 15 seconds, because we have to go.
You know what the Governor Mba just revealed there? He just understood the fact, and he revealed the fact that the most excellency is Jesus our Lord. That's the only person we should bow down for. Any other person is secondary. That's the house of our God, and God is the most excellency. So leave human positions that are fickle, that will never last, but most importantly, give all the reference to God. And it's God he was referencing, not even that man of God that was coming to beg him to come to the front.
All right, take you to church.
Governor Mba, now man you be.
Well, that's all I have for you on What's Trending today. See you tomorrow.